This energy agency, well, basically all energy agencies in Europe started in the late 90s when the European Union was trying to implement a broader perspective of the use of renewables and energy efficiency. And they noticed that they lacked a regional level because we do have an administrative level on regional basis in Sweden, but that is directly on mission from the government. So they rarely work with development questions. And so the region itself, yes, they have always worked on sustainable development issues, but not specific on energy. So they decided there is a need of regional energy agencies. So we started as a project in '99 with one person, and now we are more or less 20 companions at work, project managers and staff, and we have been for the last 23 years been involved in a bit over 400 projects. And now we are to this regional agency is a company, because the status of regional agencies varies a lot in Europe. I mean, in Sweden there are 16 regional agencies, and in Europe are like 350. But they have different ownerships, different structures, and we, for example, is a company. But we are totally owned by municipalities and the regions, and there's 3 regions in the southeast corner of Sweden. But we are to merge with the south of Sweden, Skåne, that region. We are to merge together in 1st of January, so we're going to be 4 regions. And together we have done more or less 10 biogas projects over the last 12, 13 years, more or less. And we established a regional network of biogas in 2008, just for 1 year, and with a membership fee, just to make people commit to attend the meetings. And we found out that, yes, there was a need of networking because everybody saw, especially on the municipal level, the benefits of biogas. But our challenge was, as we do not exactly the same situation in Finland, we do not have a gas grid. So for us to make biogas as competitor to natural gas was impossible. So we focused on production and to make compressed gas for use in mostly public transport and also the municipal fleet of cars. So our aim when we started 2008 was to, our target was by 2020 to have a filling station in each of our 12 municipalities, because this network is only for, it is for 3 municipalities, but we had a target of that in our region, so to speak. And we managed that in 2020. Yes, we did have a filling station in each municipality. The public transport has been, since 2018, 100% on renewables, whereof 70% have been locally produced biogas. So it's a fantastic story. And also the municipalities have bought 20, 30 cars each that runs on biogas. So just 2 years ago, it was a fantastic story. But then everything changed. And it's not the war in Ukraine, but it changed due to the new legislation for emissions of light vehicles that was last week finally decided by the parliament, that by 2035 it's not allowed to produce combustion engines in Europe. And that means that all car manufacturers in Europe will stop developing combustion engines as of today, more or less. And that means that biogas engines will not exist because we depend on a combustion engine. That leaves the market for light vehicles, and also on public transport there is an increase in, especially in technology development of electric buses, which it has become very popular. And of course, as politicians, they love to not look at the options available for the moment. They look for the next big thing, that is hydrogen, that is going to solve everything. So biogas, it's in the past for a moment. And that's our challenge for the moment, I would say. So I run this network, and it's a mix of, I think we are like 14 members, and there is municipalities, there is the region, they are biogas producers, and there is also distributors, so works on a national level. And we are one of 5 biogas networks in Sweden. And we meet regularly to address common challenges. Well, if I take a mix of the questions you sent me, exactly, Biogas Action, that project was to enhance more investment in biogas production by taking away legislative challenges and provide good examples from different countries how to overcome this, and maybe to implement subsidy systems, etc. But no one was really interested due to the fact it was a 3-year project, 2015 to 2018, that the production cost of biogas, compressed biogas, was 4 times the cost of natural gas. So it wasn't a competitor. It was more a competitor to petrol for vehicles. And then happened what happened with the new emission standards, and also it was another framework for sustainable energy production by the European Union, where they said that biogas production should mainly focus on the area of long-haul transport and maritime sector, and of course implemented into the gas grid. That was the decision, and that was 2 years ago, before the crisis with Russia. So what happened after the ongoing conflict is that the cost of natural gas is now higher than biogas. And what happened in Sweden was a bit strange, because we have almost no national distributor. They are all foreign. We have E.ON, which is a German company. We have Nature Energy, which is Danish. And we have, of course, Finnish companies, Gasum and ST1, who are running the operations in Sweden. And in some cases, in some parts of Sweden where we do have a small gas grid connection to Denmark, they signed a contract. If in case there were lack of biogas, they could mix with natural gas. So there was already stipulated in a contract, and that is now then in Malmö, for example, the price of biogas is 6 euros a kilo. Meanwhile, in our part of the country, in the southeast part of the country, we don't have a gas grid. We have only locally produced compressed biogas, and we sell it for 2 euros a kilo. And that's a crazy situation. And of course, something will happen of course, during this time. So our next project, we figured out that, okay, so the market for cars is almost gone. It's going to be a very small market in the future. Important for the resilience, of course, everything cannot run on electricity. If we run out of electricity or there are shortage of electricity, we need to rely on other sustainable fuels. So we made a proposal to the Baltic Sea program if we could do a 2-year so-called small project on what would be the key factors to establish more use of biogas in the maritime and the long-haul transport sector. And where are the good examples worldwide, really, especially European, to increase production of biogas for the gas grid in those countries that have a gas grid. And we will also, as a fourth market, look into reformation of biogas, electrofuels based upon biogas. So how could that market increase? What would be the key factors to increase their markets? Well, the key partners was, of course, the production, and that was normally association of farmers that was going to make biogas and upgrade it into compressed biogas for the car and the public transport market. There they saw the best benefits. So that, and of course, then other joined, like the end users, municipalities who could then order cars and lorries to run on biogas, because normally for a filling station they need a minimum of like 30 cars and 10 lorries or something like that to have a sufficient turnover when starting the filling station. And it has been a very good progress with that. And of course now everything had changed again. So what is happening right now in Sweden, I think is happening in Norway, not so much in Norway, they have more industrial use of biogas, but in Finland and Sweden, is that the distributors like ST1 or Gasum, they make an agreement with a company of farmers to say, hey, you can provide the biogas and we will do the investment for the upgrading. And upgrading not only to compressed gas, but to liquefied biogas, because then it can be transported long distances, and that's the key. But to make this rather costly investment, of course, the distributors need long-term contracts with the maritime sector and the long-haul transport sector. And those sectors totally depend on support from the government for production and for the end users, as for example, a lorry is 20-25% more expensive than a diesel one. So they need support for that extra cost of investment. And of course, it has to be long term. Otherwise, the market will collapse. So, yes. And that's more or less where we are right now. Yeah, normally we have single farms of that size, dairy production, of course, that could provide. We have a lot of chicken production, and like in Denmark, they have pigs that provide substrate. And normally in some areas, we have sufficient number of dairy farmers within 10 or 15 kilometers. So they could build a common place for production and upgrading. I was actually talking to our colleagues in Denmark, and we are thinking about making a project proposal on energy farmers. And that's not only they produce energy as they do now, like biogas, they can do solar parks, they can do even wind power. But the question is, should they make the investment, or should they only provide the substrate and the roof area and the land, and other companies could run the production for them and also make initial investments and things like that? Because for a farmer, I mean, producing meat or vegetables or whatever they are producing, that's the main business. I mean, energy has been something on the side for the moment, but should they continue to do that, or should other actors come in and say, hey, we can take care of your production and everything. You just hand over your substrate or wherever you have, and we take care of the rest. Should that be a new sort of brand to become energy farmers? Or so we're thinking about how should those business models look like? Yeah, there are actually two. First, you have the landowner himself that will receive a recompensation. That's one business. But then, of course, some of the decisions is on regional level and others are on a municipal level. In Sweden, for example, the municipalities have the veto, so they can actually say, no, we don't want this wind power park here. And it's a no. And for the last 3 years, the municipalities have stopped over 2,000 windmills in Sweden. This was my predecessor on on the network that run all those projects, but mainly it was on very local level to address farmers, explain the benefits of biogas, explain to the municipality so they could buy more vehicles, explain to the market, and actually still in my region, I would say that 50% of the filling stations are owned by local companies. So they took the investment. So mainly the focus on prior projects was on local production and information. Well, first of all, is the technology development of having small scale upgrading plants for compressed biogas, but also for liquefied biogas. Because until 2 years ago, it was a 5 million euros investment to upgrade to liquefied biogas and required a lot of volume to be doable. But now they have noticed that the compressed biogas market is disappearing, and of course to make possible future biogas production, if you don't have a grid, is to make it liquefied for the other markets. And actually, for example, in Stockholm, they had a biogas production from the sewer plant in Stockholm, and that was upgraded for the local transport for the buses in Stockholm. But now for the next contract, they said we were going for electric buses. So what they did was to pipe the gas to a liquefying plant in the port of Stockholm, and they send it to Germany. So liquefied biogas is the key to the development of biogas on local level, I would say. I would say the distributors because although the government and the region offers grants to the farmers, it is for them, from their perspective, a very big investment, and it's a big risk for them. So they can provide a substrate and make the gas. I think that the investment they can carry, but then the upgrading should be another actor should do that. And I think the ones who can actually benefit most of it is the distributors. Our main concern, I would say, for the moment, when starting to look into these new markets for biogas, is the competition of other renewables, because maritime will have new legislation starting 2023 or 2024 about decrease the emissions from shipping in the Baltic area especially. And we have seen a huge increase in the use of LNG ships, but we are also seeing new technologies to reduce the emissions and also other renewable fuels as a competitor, so to speak, to biogas. Because biogas cannot stand on its own. It's all dependent that there is LNG shipping. But if the shipping market is now looking into other form alternatives to LNG, that means it's slightly decreasing market for biogas. So, and that could also happen on the long haul transport and reformation and etc. So we are also in the project looking into what are the renewable alternatives for these markets.
Yes, exactly.
Because that is the main concern for the moment. Because the European Union is very focused about biogas substituting 18% of Russian natural gas. That is exploring all biogas potential there is in Europe. But the aim is just to substitute Russian gas. But in the Nordics, we need to look at other markets. But what does this market look like, and what are the options for them? I think we need like 20 cruise ships in the Baltics, and they can take all the biogas production from Sweden and Denmark and Finland. So it is an enormous market.
Yes.
And of course, we did an investigation in Sweden that if we are to use all the biogas potential for long-haul transport, for trucks, we can reach 8,000 trucks. We have like 500 today, but you can reach 8,000. That's the maximum capacity. But in Sweden, we have daily 80,000 trucks on our roads. That means the other 72,000 has to run on some other fuel. Ammonia, we know that is going to be the greatest competitor for biogas on the maritime sector. We know that. For long-haul transport, we know that electrification will take a very, very long time to get there. I mean, it's not even an option for many producers today. Hydrogen is mentioned, but it's a higher energy density in biogas. So you have a 20% better, what's it called? Transport kilometers than you have with hydrogen. So 20% better distance. You can make 20% the distance with biogas. So that is our great advantage. And of course, there is no hydrogen infrastructure today. Doesn't exist. It doesn't exist even production of hydrogen because it is dependent that there is a surplus of renewable electricity somewhere. And it will take some time before we have a surplus, an extra of electricity, especially renewable ones. So
yes.
Now, I don't think the hydrogen market will be ready in many, many years to come. Try to lobby for long-term goals. I mean, there is a biogas strategy in Finland 2030. I know that. I've seen it last week. And of course, I think it's stipulated what part the research or institutes could make in lobbying against especially decision makers to provide long-term subsidies or long-term goals to enhance the production and use of biogas.